Multiplying monomials, lesson 4.1 notes. Example number 3. We are going to simplify these. So we're going to be multiplying monomials. So again, to multiply monomials, we're going to group everything together, group our coefficients together, group our like variables together. Then we are going to multiply the coefficients. After we multiply the coefficients, we're going to add the exponents of the like variables. We'll multiply the coefficients, and then we're going to add the exponents of the like variables. So let's start with example 3a. Okay, what is the coefficient of the first monomial? So again, this would be the first monomial, and that would be the second monomial. All right, what is the coefficient of the first monomial? That would be a 5. What is the coefficient of the second monomial? That would be negative 30. So I just grouped together my coefficients. I grouped together my coefficients. Now I'm going to group together my variables. Well, first of all, I have a variable here without an exponent, so I'm going to put a 1. And since there is only the variable of t, I'm going to group those together. So I've got t to the first, and I have t to the second. Okay. To find my answer, I'm going to multiply the coefficients. So 5 times negative 30 would be negative 150. And so I did the first, or this technically the second step of multiplying the coefficients, and now I need to add the exponents. Well, 1 plus 2 would be 3. So my final answer would be negative 150 t to the third. Negative 150 t to the third. So don't write this down, but I multiplied those two together to get my 150, and then I added these exponents to get my variable term. Multiply the coefficient, add the exponents. All right, let's try a more difficult example. That one was fairly simple. Let's try a more difficult one. Well, before I do anything here, I need to put my 1s. In other words, if I don't have a coefficient, I put a 1. If I don't have a variable, I put a 1. So looking at this first monomial here, all right, I have a coefficient, that's the negative 4. I've got a variable on the a, but no variable on the b. So for this first one, I'm going to put a 1 on the b. For the second monomial, that's this one right here, I don't have a coefficient. So I'm going to squeeze a 1 between the negative sign and the a. Also, the a doesn't have an exponent, so I'm going to put a 1 there. C has the exponent of 2. The last monomial has a coefficient of 3, b has an exponent of 2, c has an exponent of 2. So it's good to go. Okay, so we're going to group together our coefficients. So our coefficients are negative 4, negative 1, and 3. Now we're going to group together our like variables. Let's start alphabetical order. Always go in alphabetical order. So let's start with our a. The first a I see is a squared. The next a I see is a to the first. And there's not an a in this last one, so I'm done with the a's. All right, now let's go to b's. In this first one, I have b to the first. There's no b in the middle monomial. And in the last one, I've got b to the second. Now we will move on to the c's. There's no c in the first monomial. I've got c squared in the second monomial, and c squared again in the last monomial. Now that we've grouped everything together, now we can multiply. So first, I'm going to multiply my coefficients. So I'm going to multiply negative 4 times negative 1 times 3, which would give me 12. And now I multiply the variable terms by adding their exponents. So for the a, I would add 2 plus 1 and get a to the third. For the b, I would add 1 plus 2 and get b to the third. And for c, I would add 2 plus 2 and get c to the fourth. So for example B, my final answer is 12a cubed b cubed c to the fourth. Okay, let's try another. Okay, I'm going to first start by putting my ones. The first monomial, the x needs a coefficient. The second monomial, the y needs a coefficient. Or sorry, exponents there. Those are exponents. My bad. The last monomial, I need a coefficient of positive 1, and the z needs an exponent of 1. So again, exponent of 1 on the x in the first monomial, 1 as an exponent for the y in the second monomial. I need a coefficient of 1 in the third monomial, and the z needs a 1 for the exponent. Okay, so let's group together our coefficients. In the first monomial, I have a 3. And in the second one, it's a negative 5. And the last one, it's a positive 1. I have 3 different parentheses, 3 monomials. Or sorry, 3 coefficients. 3 parentheses, 3 coefficients. Going in alphabetic order, let's start with an x. So I have x to the first. I have x squared. And there's no x in the last monomial. Now we'll go to y's. I've got y squared, y to the first. And next I'll do the z's. There's no z in the first monomial, no z in the second monomial, and z to the first in the last monomial. Once again, put a line through your z, please. Put a line through your z. Okay, time to multiply. 3 times negative 5 times 1 would be negative 15. And now I add the exponents to multiply my variables. So I know that sounds odd. You're multiplying your variables, so you're going to add the exponents. So for the x, 1 plus 2 would make that x to the third. For the y, 2 plus 1 would make that y to the third. Now since there's only one z term, I leave it as just z. In other words, for the final answer, if the exponent is 1, you don't actually write the 1. Again, you don't need an exponent of 1 in your answer. So take a moment, pause your video, and write that down. Okay. For D, do I need to put any ones? No, everything is good to go. So I'm going to start with my coefficients. I have a coefficient of 3 and a coefficient of 60. I've got 2 variable terms. I've got m and p going in alphabetic order. The m's would be first. So I have m squared and m to the 13th. And then I only have one p term, and that is p squared. Right, I'm going to start by multiplying my coefficients. 3 times 60 is 180. Now I'm going to multiply my variable terms by adding their exponents. 2 plus 13 would make that m to the 15th. And then since it's just p to the second, I don't do anything but write it down as p to the second. So my final answer for D would be 180 m to the 15th, p to the second. Okay, the next one for E. I'm going to put all my ones that I need. The x needs an exponent. The z needs an exponent. And then the y in the last monomial needs an exponent. So let's group together our coefficients. We have a coefficient of 8, -10, and -2. Now going in alphabetical order, we've got x, y, and z. I only have one x term, and that is x to the first. I have two y terms. I have y to the ninth and y to the first. And I've got two z terms. I've got z to the first and z squared. Again, put lines through your z's. All right, now for my final answer. I'm going to take and multiply my coefficients. 8 times 10 times 2. Sorry, 8 times -10 times -2. There's two negatives there, so it's going to become positive 160. I only have one x term, and I don't need to write the exponent of 1, so it'll just be x. For the y, I take 9 plus 1 and get y to the 10th. For the z, I'm going to take 1 and add the 2 to get z to the 3rd. So my final answer for E is 160x, y to the 10th, z to the 3rd. If you have any questions on the examples we have done so far, let me know.